Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today with Global Compliance Service on ISO certification 9001 requirements training. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our guest, Ms. Candel Bostwick. She is the CEO of Global Compliance Service, the only ISO resident office in Guyana. Good morning, Ms. Bostwick, and how are you today?
Hello, good morning, Danielle. I'm fine, thank you. And how are
Pleasure.
you?
I am excellent today. I'm always having a wonderful day. It's fantastic to see you here. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to provide us with some guidance and information, as you're always willing to do on ISO 9001.
Mhm. Yes, Danielle. Thank you.
Great.
It's always a pleasure when we can share information with members of the community so that they can be better equipped to make decisions. And in this case, it's regarding the ISO 9001 requirements course that we have scheduled for next week. Mhm.
That is great to hear. And speaking of the requirements training that you'll be conducting, the ISO 9001, I'm familiar that it's available to across all industries, both manufacturing and service providers. Would
Yes.
you give us some details on the 9001 standard and what it's all about?
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. That's an interesting question. I know many persons would be hearing of the ISO 9001 standard, what it's all about. Why are so many persons interested in this standard, and why is Global Compliance Service offering training on this standard? The ISO 9001 2015 standard is an internationally recognized standard that defines the requirements for meeting or exceeding the expectations of your customers and also meeting their statutory and regulatory requirements. So, this standard is one that is accepted globally as the benchmark for meeting customer satisfaction, the benchmark for a quality management system. So it basically creates trust to your customers. So once you implement a quality management system, it provides trust. Now, quickly about that standard, why it's very unique. The standard basically allows a company to adopt what we call a process approach. And when I say a process approach, you're able to define your activities in terms of a process where you have inputs and at the end you have the outputs. So, inputs, the activities that are required to determine your outputs, and most so, your outputs are what your customers require from you. Your inputs would be the requests from your customer. What are their expectations, their needs, your product specifications? And whatever you do in between that, the standard allows you to streamline those operations. And that's why we call it a process approach. Also, that standard allows you to adopt what we call a risk based thinking. In previous standards, this was known as preventive action. So when you adopt the risk-based thinking approach, it allows you to evaluate risk within your operations that can actually prevent you from meeting, let's say, the requirements of your customers. So you're able to prepare for risk and put systems in place so that it will not hinder you meeting your customer specification and requirements and also your internal processes. So the standard is very important for us here in Guyana, especially how we're moving into what we will call the oil boom or developing within our oil and gas sector. It is very important that our businesses improve the level of quality that is presented to their customers in terms of the quality of products and services. So this standard is very important for all types of businesses. And you mentioned manufacturers. service providers, and I will break it down a little more to persons, to services you can relate to. Once a client is paying for a service that you offer, you are obligated to have systems in place where you can provide that trust or that confidence to the client in meeting those requirements. So, for example, within our tourism industry, right? The services provided by the tourism sector is very important. So, for example, our hotels can adopt this ISO 9001 system. The restaurants can also adopt it. And I'm sure from time to time we may say, okay, there is need for improvement within this sector. We have the auto industry in terms of the maintenance services provided. So our entrepreneurs who do maintenance service, the body work service on our vehicles, they can have a quality system. We have the social services can also implement a quality system, right? And there's so many industries. So no industry is really exempted. We have our healthcare facilities, and more so that is needed when we look at what is happening with the COVID-19 to guarantee that they're providing great service to their patients and also that they have the requisite systems in place. So the ISO 9001 standard can be applied across the board to our academic system within our schools, within our universities, how these systems are managed. So ISO 9001 has been identified as one of the most used standards globally. And also in Guyana, most of our companies certified in Guyana have implemented the ISO 9001 standard. Yes, Daniel. So I hope that answers your first question regarding the ISO 9001 standard and its importance to our local businesses.
That is an excellent bit of information. It's very useful. I always enjoy having interviews with Miss Bostwick because of your depth of knowledge and your understanding, both in terms of our local context as well as ISO certification. Can you elaborate a bit on what type of organizations and businesses that the ISO 9001 standard is applicable to?
Yes, it's applicable to all types of businesses, irrespective of the size of the business. You can apply for ISO 9001. And it's not just the certification, the benefits come when you actually implement the ISO 9001 quality system within your operations. You're able to streamline your operation. So no matter how simple your operation is, if you have a photocopying shop, if you have a little cafe, if you have a manufacturing facility, even transportation services, um, the transportation services you have within the mining community, um, any organization, once you function, even our government entities, we have a few government entities who are implementing the ISO 9001 quality management system. And it would be great if we can see all of our government entities certified to that standard. So this will raise the level of customer service and we'll get greater satisfaction, greater output from our processes. So any business, so if you're operating a school, you can apply the ISO 9001 quality management system. So you're encouraging persons, irrespective of the type of business you have, ISO 9001 is applicable. And that standard, when you become certified, it basically gives you the passport, it gives you recognition, you have a benchmark for quality, where your company can be among those leading companies globally that are already certified to that standard. It creates trust and confidence in whatever product or service you are delivering to your clients.
Very informative. Thank you, Ms. Bostwick. So companies and businesses can operate. However, I do appreciate that having this particular standard, the 9001, It is for quality. And I appreciate that how you emphasize that it creates trust between your customers. So that is very great in terms of customer service. I have observed some government entities that are ISO certified, and in keeping with what you have said, the level of service and the way they approach visitors to the organization has changed dramatically, and you can tell it is from a quality change in their organization.
Mm.
Companies can operate with or without the ISO 9000. So why would you recommend that businesses implement this standard?
Yes, I would recommend that businesses implement this standard because it would allow them to really revisit their existing operations and see how they can improve on it to improve productivity. It will allow them to identify those challenges that may be affecting their productivity, allow them to streamline their operations. For example, if a business is operating and they have certain systems where they would have found that there are many errors taking place. They will simply document those systems so that persons will be aware. It provides avenues for training of your staff because once you have certain critical procedures documented, it provides training opportunities for staff. Persons can be deemed competent to conduct certain activities within the organization. Also, implementing the quality system. When we look at the standard has identified some key documents that the company should have, even though there are not many. For example, you have a quality policy, you will have your objectives that define the direction of your organization. And then there are a number of records that you will generate to show that you're actually providing confidence to your clients that you are actually meeting those objectives that you would have set. Oftentimes, businesses and organizations may set objectives during the last quarter of the preceding year or the beginning of a new year, and you find you only look at those objectives again at the end of the year. But the system allows you to continuously review and update your objectives. And if you're not meeting those objectives, you have ways in which you can now identify corrective actions, what are causing challenges within your business. So you actually implement a strategic way of operating your business. And one of the theories that are applied is what we call the denim cycle: plan, do, check, act. So it's a continual improvement cycle that allows you to improve. You can, for example, ensure that your staff are competent to perform their assigned duties. You'll be able to revisit the facilities that you have available. Are they suitable to deliver on the quality of products and services? And once you identify those deficiencies, you're able to fix them. Many times customer requirements are not met because we have weak internal systems. For example, you're able to match what does the customer want towards what you are providing to the customer. So once your customer requirements are defined, and the standard is very clear on that, we don't take it verbally, but we must document it. So when we produce the product, we can verify that, okay, we are indeed meeting our customer requirements. If not, we have systems of addressing those areas that have not been identified. So it's very important. So the standard implementing the quality system is not just about certification, but it's about the benefits that a company will see. Top management's job will be much easier. They will see increase in productivity, less time being spent on addressing recurring challenges. You have reduction in customer complaints. Even when you have customer complaints, you have a way in which you address it. So your customers do not really feel that effect. They feel that you truly appreciate them and you're really compensating them for any deficiency in a product or service that you would have provided to them. So it's very important that all businesses in Guyana, irrespective of your size, that you explore the implementation of the standard. And the only way you can do that, the first step is to be trained on the requirements so you can understand what is required of your business.
Great. I like that approach of plan, do, check, act. That
Mhm.
is a way of ensuring that it's very customer centric. And I
Yeah.
admire that the standard does include areas where you work towards satisfying the customer needs as well as addressing discrepancies from providing your product or service. So if the customer is unhappy, you have a methodology to correct that and better your customer service and better the product you're providing. I am well aware that Global Compliance Service has the ability to provide an ISO certificate to companies locally. In working with the company and training, you mentioned that there's training coming up next week. What are some of the benefits of having the personnel trained in the organization? Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yes. One of the key benefits of training your staff is to empower them. Because I'm sure you can relate to instances where one person is trained that's in a particular subject area and they return to work and they start to talk about the new concepts, right? Sometimes it's a challenge to have the support of your team. So if you equip your team on knowing, let's say, the requirements of the ISO 9001 standard, together you will be able to work to improve your internal system. You will get a wider support. So staff will be empowered. You will have greater support from top management. So we also encourage members of top management to take time out to attend the course if it's possible so that they can also be aware of the requirements because it's very top management support is very key for the success of a quality management system because they're responsible for providing the resources required for the system to function. So it's important that you train your staff so that you will be better able to develop your system. Also, even if you hire a consultant to assist you in your implementation process of the ISO 9001 standard, you will also be able to relate to the directions or guidance that a consultant is giving you because you want to encourage you that as a business owner, it's also your responsibility to ensure that you're aware of the requirements. So when someone is assisting you in implementing the system, you can actively participate in the discussions, seek clarification, and not just leave it to the consultant alone. Because you may find the consultant will deliver the system for you, and when that consultant leaves or that project ends, you and your company are left to implement a system that you probably don't understand how to implement. You may not know what to do to implement that quality system. So it's good if you empower key persons within your team to be trained on the standard. So everyone will know why they have to, let's say, document certain SOPs, retain records, because traditionally many companies do not retain certain records that are critical for the functionality of the organization, for them to meet their objectives. So record keeping is one of the key areas that you will see improvement in, and also documenting some of your critical SOPs for your processes. So it's very important that you train key persons within your team, and when they return from the training program, that you allow them to integrate that new knowledge within your operations by simply starting with an implementation plan as to how you can now continuously improve on your existing system. Mhm.
Thank you very much. That is very informative. I do see great value in having Global Compliance Service provide the ISO certification for the companies, as well as the ability for you to provide the requirements training, because the company is an entity, however, it does require that human touch, that person with great knowledge that can understand the system, understand the certification, and implement it to better the overall operations of the organization. I also would like to recognize your experience as well as your knowledge in ISO locally and internationally. In terms of global compliance service, what does it offer to its participants?
First of all, one of the main things we offer is that we ensure that our trainers are competent and skilled. So the courses are presented in a very professional manner. We also provide opportunities for the participants to interact and also relate the contents of the training to their individual environment. So they have a greater appreciation of applying the requirements of the standard to their operations. We have exercises, some homework also that the participants are engaged in where they can, apply it to their operations and also to listen to the views of other participants. So it's a very interactive session. In addition to that, the participants, they would receive a certificate that is verifiable. Basically, a certificate issued by Global Compliance Service. You have a little test at the end of the course, so participants receive a certificate for successfully completing that course, and that certificate is issued with a unique number. And if you go to our website for the train under the train personnel, and you plug in the number on that certificate, you will actually see it. So once you receive that certificate, you could go anywhere in the world, and that certificate can be verified by Global Compliance Service as an authentic training issued to you, the participant, as participating in our training program. So that is one of the uniqueness of participating in a training program that is offered by a certification body, an, an ISO accredited certification body. And as Danielle mentioned, it's also important that you're also chipping in on the skills of the experienced auditor, because the trainers we select are also third-party certification auditors. So they can also give you additional insight with their experiences on how the standard is applied in many across many sectors. So there are some advantages. So it's not just a regurgitation of what is in the standard, but you have many examples that are shared and how the standard can be applied to your respective organizations.
Great information once more, Ms. Boswick. I do recognize that the certificate is verifiable and that you can use it elsewhere. The participant sees the benefit of using it for their organization, or should they migrate or work for different organizations, they have that certificate that they can add on their CV to their list of credentials to make them a bit more marketable, and they have that knowledge to apply in any industry that they
Yep.
participate, they have a career in. So that is great information. Thank you very much for that. The training is scheduled for next week. And how do you register to participate in the training?
Yes. Participants have the option of calling us at the office. As you can see, the number is scrolling along the screen on 223-6666, or they can send an email to either myself or to Danielle, and we can have you registered. Also, the registration is up on our Facebook. Payments can be made by check to Global Compliance Service Guyana Inc. Or if you'd like to deposit it into our account, you call our office so that you can receive the banking information. So this training is being held virtually on August 25th and 26th from 13 hours to 16 hours 30. So participants are encouraged to register as soon as possible because there is a short pre-course questionnaire which should be completed by Monday, August the 24th for resubmission. Right? So those are the requirements for contacting us for your registration. Participants can also receive a copy of the training manual once payment has been confirmed. So you will be equipped with a training manual that details for you the content of the program so that you can actually use it as a reference manual at the end of the training course.
That is very valuable, great information. Thank you very much. The office is located opposite the Theater Guild on Parade Street. That's in 120 Parade Street, Kingston. Ms. Boswick, I would like to thank you very much for all of the information and for dedicating time to educating everyone on the information you communicated about ISO 9001, in particular, the training that is upcoming on the 25th and 26th next week. Persons that are interested in the training can contact the office on 223-6666 for further information and for registration. Ms. Boswick?
Thank you, Danielle. It was great being a part of this interview, and I look forward to other interviews with you in the future as we continue to educate this community on the benefits of ISO 9001 and also its certification. So until we meet again, thank you.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you very much also. I look forward to another interview and we will update and keep everyone abreast with information for the ISO 9001. Have a great day.
Thank you, Danielle.